All right. Welcome, Zintis. So happy to have you here on Queerly Beloved. How are you, my dear?
Oh, I am fabulous. Thank you.
Great. And you are weathering the storm out in the Catskills. And I'm glad that you are inside, warm, and able to have this conversation.
Oh yeah, no, the snow is just part of the whole seasonal thing that happens. It's such a wonderful change and then a pace and quiet, everything slows down and then once
Mm.
again, things pick up later on. So it's a nice thing.
Yeah, absolutely. As you know, am living in San Diego, and we don't have very distinct seasons. And so it was so nice over New Year's to get to go back east and experience that cold and that quiet, that quiet stillness that is so present during the winter time on the East Coast. I was upstate, wandering the woods, back at the retreat center I used to run, Easton Mountain, and it reminded me of how much I love the seasons. And it's not that we don't have any seasons here, but they're just much more subtle. So
Right.
I appreciate you being there, in the thick of the winter season on the East Coast.
Well, and it is the quiet because that quiet just
Mm,
allows, everything to slow down, including the mind and just kind of a
mm,
time of contemplation. So it really is
mm.
lovely.
Yeah, beautiful. So I would love to ask you my introductory question, and that is, who are you in this moment? In this moment of time on this Tuesday, but tell me by describing the perfect drag avatar that embodies that.
Well, I would say right now, at this moment, the perfect drag avatar, it has raven feathers, it has bird feathers, because
Mm-hmm.
this is a time of crows and ravens and owls, and it is night here, and I just see myself in that particular flowing robe of feathers and
Mm.
really flying. So if I'm allowed to fly and soar above and look down, that's what I'm doing.
Beautiful. Yes. Well, full allowance from my energy. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And I'll share my drag avatar this afternoon. I'm in this flow of health. I'm really prioritizing my health in this beginning of 2024. And, I've taken up a vegan diet, and I'm celebrating it and just feeling really grateful to have the resources and the information and the opportunity to prioritize health. And so the drag avatar that embodies that focus of my energy right now, I'm gonna say is this it's this like warrior princess. But because you introduced the bird, I'm like seeing this strong bird as well. So it's like a winged warrior, a white wing warrior, is what I'm seeing as my drag avatar to embody that focus on health and just feeling the vitality of that, feeling like I can spread these wings and I can flex these muscles and I can move through my space and move through my life with this vibrant, powerful, healthy energy. That's where I am today.
Well, congratulations on the vegan diet. I have been a
Mm,
vegan for many, many years, and it's wonderful. On so many levels, not just health
mm,
for your body, but health for the planet and so many
mm,
other aspects. I think for me, it feels like a very spiritual part of my spiritual path.
Oh, well, what a beautiful synchronicity. I didn't know that about you. And it's only been a week and a half or so, so I can't claim that I'm suddenly a vegan, but I am focused on a plant-based diet and seeking more of a vegan lifestyle. And in so doing, I've been researching. So I've been watching a couple documentaries. There's one on Netflix right now called The Twin Experiment, which really clearly shows it takes these two twins, and one has a vegan diet, one has an omnivore, and shows the impact. And then this other documentary called The Greatest Something, and it's about this UFC athlete who is experimenting with vegan diet. And I'm just learning both, like you said, the impact on the climate of the meat industry and how horrific that is, and how horrific it is to see where meat often comes from. And then, not always, there is more ethically sourced, healthy places and ways to get meat, but most of the meat in America is the opposite of that. And then also to see the health benefits of a plant-based diet. So yeah, that's inspiring. So how long did you say you've been vegan? For many years?
Well, I actually I've been a true vegan for about 10 years. My husband
Wow.
really,
Mm,
like, he's been a vegan for like 40 years. And
mm,
so he said, "All right, you're already a vegetarian for 30 years, so just
hmm.
drop the milk and drop the eggs, and
Uh-huh.
then we can be on the same page."
Nice.
He didn't like it when I cooked eggs in the house. He said it made him
Hmm.
sick. So
Wow.
um so anyway, so yeah, it really, and actually, in terms of health, like,
Mm,
the cholesterol numbers did go down a little bit, like,
mm-hmm,
not that they were terrible, but
mm-hmm.
so there is an impact. There really truly is, within probably 6 months.
And what is your perspective on it from a spiritual lens?
Well, from the spiritual lens, it really mostly has to do with animals, and
Mm-hmm.
really being loving and kind to all beings, in which
Mm,
case slaughtering someone and eating them, just for me, doesn't fit into that particular model at all.
mm-hmm.
So that
Mm-hmm.
and also just for the earth, in terms of growing plants and cultivating that type of food, that really brings us closer to the connection to our Mother Earth.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing all that. So I am excited today to get to interface with Joshua, the entity that you channel. Is that correct to
Well,
describe?
actually, let's call it an energy,
Energy. Okay.
because Joshua is fifth dimensional being. So
Mm.
when I think of entity, I think of a body, and
Hmm.
there really is no body. It's simply energy. I mean,
Hmm.
everything is energy, including
Hmm.
bodies, in a very kind of low vibration. But
Hmm.
so I usually refer to Joshua as energy, fifth dimensional energy.
Okay. Wonderful. Yeah. Thanks for that clarification. And I think it might be helpful to start with telling the listeners what is meant when we talk about channeling. And just to give folks a little bit of a context, the way that Zintis and I were connected is through a platform that helps connect people with channelers called oracle.com. And so they had reached out to me to share about that platform. And then I requested to see if there was a connection to any gay or queer folks who are part of their platform. And then lo and behold, I got connected with this brilliant and wonderful man. So I'd love for you to share with the listeners what is meant just in its simplicity when we talk about channeling or a channeler.
Well, basically, I mean, there are various forms of channeling, but the one that was mostly commonly thought of, I would say, is when someone like myself goes into a trance or a partial trance, and then turns their body or their voice box certainly over to
Mm,
another energy, another entity, who then starts to speak through the channeler. I mean, that would be the very basic premise, but we all channel. We channel through our hands, we channel healing
mm,
energy.
mm,
Artists frequently channel creative energy into their artwork, whether it be music
mm,
or a visual composition. So channeling happens far more, I think, than most people realize.
mm,
But back to the theme, and what Oracle is promoting is that, yes, we are all channelers who go into some mode of trance and then connect with energy, in some cases entities, who
mm-hmm.
then communicate through us.
Beautiful. And what do you think is the value of making use of that? You mentioned that you believe that it's happening in a much more widespread way than most people are aware of and acknowledging. And there is this possibility of bringing more awareness and acknowledgement to this phenomenon, this thing that's happening. What is the value of recognizing channeling and or making use of it in the way that we get to play with today?
Well, absolutely. I've been a channeler. I'm going to back up just slightly. I've
Yeah.
been a channeler for about 14 years now, but I've been interested in channeling for really truly most of my life, the last
Mm,
50 years or more.
mm,
And then also I worked with a channeler for about 20 years prior to learning to do it myself.
mm,
And really the benefit that I see for myself in the past and for my clients is that through that type of a communication, they have a much, they being the entities or the
mhm,
energies, they have a much broader viewpoint of who we are as humans. You know, as
mhm,
humans, we're pretty isolated and we're very limited in our information. So, for instance, Joshua is able to talk about past lives or other lives that a soul
mhm,
may have had and talk about life or soul purpose within the
mm,
lifetime that the human is experiencing, and frequently the questions revolve around challenges in whatever form, whether they be health or relationship or just growth. And so that there's like a broad, like they're looking through from a much larger lens than what we see. Like when we look at our surroundings, we're very limited in what we're able
mm,
to perceive. The other thing is that channeling also can connect a person with their angels, with their guides,
mm,
so that they have a better ability themselves to really to do a form of channeling for themselves. And in
mm.
fact, at Oracle, we're promoting that. We will start up classes shortly on how to do that.
Cool.
So it's just it's we're we as a as an individual channeler
Mm,
and through my work and then through the group, we're really trying to bring awareness so that people can utilize this tool. And it's not difficult. Basically, you sit and listen, but the
mm.
insights can be really life changing.
Beautiful. And so you said that you had been interested in channeling for a lot of your life and also working with a channeler. And it wasn't until 14 years ago, did you say, that you
Yeah,
started
roughly.
to
Yeah,
do it?
right.
So what happened? What was the switch? I'd love to hear any part of that story.
Well, actually, the woman I worked with that who did sessions for me, her name is Pepper Lewis, and she channeled Gaia, Mother Earth.
Mm,
She no longer actually offers sessions for quite a few years, but I just got drawn to her. I became interested in her, started following her. And this was before the internet. So there's a publication called the Sedona Journal of Emergence, and that it's a channeling publication. That's all they publish. And so
mm,
I got connected to that, started reading her work, and then the internet sort of came to life, and I was able to like find her that way. Um, and really, I would have actually gotten trained earlier, but the when she offered trainings, I was fortunate to work in Mexico during the winters at a spa. So when
mm,
she was offering trainings in the New York area, I was always in Mexico. So then
mm,
it took a kind of a fortuitous situation where I was available when she was offering a training. So that's
mm.
why I waited that long.
Amazing. So it was through like an in-person training that you were able to really turn your I don't know, your skills, your capacity on to do this kind of work.
Yeah, it was in person. It was a fascinating experience. So that's a whole other
Mm,
story. But I would add, Will, that as a Reiki master, I I've done thousands and thousands of Reiki sessions, and I get a lot of information. And for
mhm,
many years prior to being trained as a channeler, at the end of a session, I would just simply start speaking and telling the
mm,
person, things that I really had no idea I was going to say. And
mm,
I'm fairly certain now that it was a form of channeling. I don't know where that was coming from. I was probably connecting to their guide or something of that nature. And it was over years that this information was validated by them. Yeah, I'd say something totally crazy, off the wall, and they say, "Oh my
mm,
God, how did you know that?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know how
mm,
I knew that, but it came out."
mm,
So, um, and then back to what I said before, I think as humans, I think we really have a lot more of that going on than we're aware of.
mm. And what are some perhaps simple things that people can do to tap more into what's already naturally happening in the
Well,
world of channeling?
right. Well, really, the thing to do is to slow down and listen.
Mm,
And because in our society, particularly those folks who are living in cities and have stressful jobs and are, perhaps have others obligations in their life, they don't take the time frequently just to sit and be quiet with themselves. And it's
Mm,
during those moments that's when it's easier to kind of get the information or hear the voice, or however it comes through. It's going to come through differently
mm,
for everyone. um I mean, I just, to promote myself just slightly, I've written a
yeah.
book, and it's
Mm,
called Dawning Light, and it's
mm,
a little subtitle is Joshua's Guide to Understanding and Performing the Art of Channeling.
mm,
So it's just, so there are exercises in there, but most of them really involve just finding a way to open yourself, and it's a very natural
mm,
process. And then some people are more successful than others, but
mhm,
many of us doubt the information that we get because sometimes it feels too easy. Someone is
mm.
telling us, well, don't do this, do this, and it's, we follow the advice or we don't.
Mm, yeah, for me, what I find challenging sometimes is the the mind games that I play around discerning whether or not it's guidance or it's just a thought that I had.
Right.
Um, any thoughts on that?
Well, I'll give you a simple exercise that actually is in the book too. Is
Hmm.
we know our own thought patterns.
Mm,
So basically, our thoughts go in circles and they sound very familiar. So if you step back and
mhm,
you just observe how your everyday kind of thoughts are happening, you know the flavor of your own thoughts. I mean, it's sort of
mhm,
the like the sound of our own voice, or sound of the voice of someone we love and are very familiar with. So when usually when guidance comes in, it sounds a little bit more different.
mm,
It'll have a different even vocabulary to it, or it'll have a way that you can discern fairly easily. But
mm,
absolutely, what you're describing is what most people struggle with. They okay, am I making this up? Is this me? And until a person gets validation in whatever form. I mean, it's really
mm,
easy if you hear this voice screaming at you, stop the car, and then 2 seconds later there's something in front of the car, like that was guidance. But
mm,
generally it's not quite that dramatic. So
mm,
then we have to find ways to sort of say, okay, like, was that true, was that not true?
mm,
And then the other thing is, many of us have strong intuitive
mm,
skills to begin with. So then that also is a form of guidance. I would say
mm,
it's a guidance generally from our own higher consciousness sometimes.
mm,
So it's a separation of the mind and the ego from our soul and our higher
mm.
consciousness. For there's various levels that we are as humans. So then it's finding that balance also.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. It's funny. I'll just share a quick story. The day that we were originally scheduled to do this interview, remember, I think it was a day or two, maybe just the day before, that I said, "Hey, I'm in New York City. I really want to see a matinee tomorrow. Would you mind, being flexible and doing this a little later?" And you were so gracious and flexible and understanding, and so we put this out. So then that morning, I woke up and this thought or this guidance came that said, "You're meant to work on your podcast this afternoon." And I said, "Well, no, I already switched my schedule with Zintis. No, that's not what's happening. I'm going to go to TKTS. I'm going to find my ticket and I'm going to go see a show. I'm so excited to do that because I was planning to see a show that night. I wanted to see two in one day." But the voice kept happening. And I said, "Well, I'm just gonna stick with my plan, knowing that it might not work out." Now that I've heard that voice more than once, it's very possible that this isn't gonna work out. And if it doesn't, perhaps it'll just be some more validation. So I went through the process. I got on the subway, I got down to TKTS. I could see that the show that I wanted to see was available and maybe another one. And I finally got to the window. There was enough time. I was like, "See, this is going to work out." It wasn't guidance. It was just a random thought. And then sure enough, I got to the ticket window and they said, "Nope, that one's sold out. That one's sold out." And I was like, "Oh, all right, now I'm going home." And I think I reached out to you and you were already booked. But then I ended up spending the time uploading a new episode, which I hadn't done in a while. And so I actually did what I was guided to do. And I got to receive that validation from that experience where it was like clearly not in my greatest and highest good to be doing that afternoon.
Well, so there you go. So now
Mm.
the next time you hear that voice saying, work on your podcast,
Yeah.
you better pay attention.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was a little bit of wasted time, but all in service of the lesson, right? So it was a interesting opportunity. And I love that it also was related to our talk right now. I think that's an interesting synchronicity too.
Right. And,
Eh,
and what I don't know, for whatever reason, I booked for that time. It came in suddenly that day. I actually had two emergency
uh-huh.
channeling sessions that day that came in. One that morning, the client said, I can't wait. I have to speak with
Mm,
Joshua now. And so I
mm,
said, all right, well, I've got this opening now, so let's
mm-hmm.
put you in. So you
Wow.
see, it worked out not only for you, but for me and
Mm-hmm.
for other people as well. So there's
Wow.
always it's not just about us, as we
Mm-hmm.
know, there
Mm-hmm.
it impacts big circles all around.
Yes, I love that divine orchestration of it all. Yeah, that's beautiful. And the other thing I just want to reflect on is this piece around listening and recognizing that for me, it's sometimes hard to give myself that stillness and that quiet space. And it's simply because I have these habits of filling the space, filling the void. I notice that even when I'm driving, I always want to have a podcast on or an Audible or something to listen to. And I just am constantly filling the silence with something to pull my energy, my focus. And so it is a habit that I'm learning to break. I'm starting to even just that simple task of driving without the radio playing or a podcast playing. I'm giving myself more spaciousness and intentionally finding more opportunities to be in that silence. And yeah, it's funny that we started this conversation today talking about the stillness and quiet that is available during these hibernating months. So it does feel like this is a ripe opportunity for folks to go into more spaciousness, more quiet space, and potentially receive more in
Oh,
these ways.
absolutely. And I just want to share, Will, 12 years ago, I did a 3-month cross-country trip, a road
Mm.
trip with my massage table in the back so I could earn money
Mm.
along the way. And I had a whole stack of CDs and different lectures and classes, and I was going to learn Spanish like during this time. And I never once turned on the radio or put in any of that. And
Wow.
it was a spiritual awakening those 3 months, because I
Mm.
was so with nature. I mean, I would also stop and hike and just walk, like whenever I had the urge to do that. And it
Mm.
was winter. It was January through March. So for a lot of it, I was also in cold, but it was fabulous. So yes, I completely encourage turning off the radio and just allowing whatever comes through to the chance to happen.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. So, yeah, it feels like a good time perhaps to step into some time with Joshua, if that feels good to you.
Oh, it always feels great for me. So
Hmm.
I'm happy to do that. The voice will change, and you'll know when Joshua is present.
Wonderful. All right.
I start by saying just a little, like a little prayer of sorts to
Mm-hmm.
guide myself into the space.
Okay, perfect.
So I offer myself and open myself to all the beautiful energies of our Mother Earth, the animals, the plants, the minerals, three-dimensional beings and other dimensional beings. And I also open myself to beings of light from outside of the earth, angels, guides, and various intelligent beings who are guiding us and helping us, humanity and individually. And most of all, I open myself to Joshua, inviting him to join us now to offer some wisdom and guidance for this person, Will, and also for this group. And for all of this, we give thanks. And so it is.
So it is.
"Greetings, friend." We
Mm,
join in conversation to discuss whatever might be on your mind. But Joshua will just begin a little bit, as we like to, by saying something about you and the people that you are representing, the LGBTQ plus group. And we may be missing some initials. We apologize for that. But you see, from our perspective, you are all beautiful human beings. You are all beings of light. There is no distinction. And one thing we would say to you is that as humans upon your world, you are absolutely fortunate in the ability that you have to explore sexuality and sexual unions of various sorts. And this is not so common. There are other planets with sentient beings. There are millions of such planets. You are not aware of them. But generally, the type of expression that you are able to manifest in your own relationships of various sorts, that is unique. And this is something
mm,
to be treasured. And we would offer you that simply to know that you are able to really, truly be enjoying what you are doing and who you are. And there is no judgment. There is a little quote that we would like to offer. This
mm,
was not from Joshua. This was from another channeled entity that the channeler had an opportunity to witness or to hear. But the quote was simply this: "Can you imagine that there is a wrong way to love and so many right ways to hate?" And
mm,
that is how much of your planet is. And this must be turned around. There is the right way to love, and all love is right. That
mm.
is our introduction for you today.
Thank you so much, Joshua. It's a honor and pleasure to be in your presence. So I love that you started with this message specifically around the LGBTQ experience. And yeah, what a beautiful thing to acknowledge that we get to celebrate the ways that we connect sexually. Any other thoughts on the purpose of the queer community in the greater scope of human consciousness? So what the queer folks on this planet are meant to do, especially in this time of the human consciousness coming into more awakening.
Absolutely. You see, it is a gift. You are actually bringing a gift to humanity
Mm,
because you are not as bound by various social norms and various boxes and various roadblocks. Many of you, the ones who are able to embrace and truly who you are, and we urge and encourage every single one of you to do that, is that you are able to break free, and some more than others. And
mm,
we are not saying that everyone should walk around in wild outfits or anything of that nature, but simply by allowing yourself to be who you are sending a message to others who are struggling, and not only others who are of a sexual orientation that may be different from the norm, but others who in some way feel that they are different, some others who wish to follow their life path but are afraid to. You see,
mm,
that is a big issue that your people can bring to humanity, is the
mm,
expansion and the growth and the creativity. And so many folks are creative. They are able to
mm,
express themselves in ways that others may belittle or say is inconsiderate or in some way unbecoming. But at the same time, when you are able to experience that freedom and others can see that and share in it, that is much of the gift that you are bringing. Another
mm,
aspect of the gift that you are bringing is that you also are able to expand upon who you are as human beings. So you are not, again, limited by various social norms. If you are a man,
mm,
you are this, a woman, you are
mhm,
that. No, in fact, you can be many things in many ways. And that also is beautiful for yourselves. But again, it is a beautiful lesson, particularly when there are younger people who are observing this and who grow up knowing, yes, they can be whatever it is that they truly are. And so that is much of the gift that you bring to humanity.
yes, thank you. Thank you for acknowledging that. One of the things I heard you mention is this piece around creativity. And I have been thinking lately about creativity as not just something that only few are bestowed with, but that we all have as our birthright. And that not only can we use our creativity to connect with the arts, but we can use it to design lives that we desire. And I'm curious to hear some of your thoughts on creativity.
Absolutely. You see, the creative energy, that force is absolutely present in every human being because
Mm,
it must be. Without the creative force, on some level, it is part of your life force. You
mm,
simply would not be able to be. You would not be able to live any sort of a structured life if you did not have creativity. But there is more to that, far more to that, because also you must understand that the creative energy and sexual energy are basically the same. And
mm,
so, also, when you allow the two of them to intermingle, not to necessarily have wild sex acts, but at the same time, understanding that sexual expression is creativity and
mm,
opposite is true as well. So, therefore, what you are asking is true because every human being, from the time they are born, but more from the time that they have some recognition of who they are, perhaps the age of 3 or 4, they are keenly aware of who they truly are and what they would
mm,
like to be. And granted, a child may change their mind numerous times in terms of profession or something of that nature.
mm,
But deep down inside, they know that they are gay or straight. They know that they are an artist or not. And
mm,
there are various aspects. The other thing is creativity does not need to be the creation of some masterpiece, artistic masterpiece. Not at all. You see, in every lifetime, in every moment of every lifetime, you
mm,
are creating something because you are thinking of doing something and then it has to manifest.
mm,
So also remember that manifestation is a form of creation and
mm,
creativity. So when you desire something in your life, be it something of a material nature or something of a spiritual, emotional, mental nature, does not matter. If you set yourself to creating it or manifesting it, you are absolutely employing the creative energy in
mm,
very interesting ways and in infinite numbers of ways. You see, creativity is not limited to this or that. There are infinite numbers of expressions of creativity available to human beings.
mm. Beautiful. Thank you. And you just mentioned this word manifesting, which is a real buzzword, in the spiritual spaces. And I'm just curious if you have any thoughts or even perhaps tips on how people can more effectively manifest the things that they desire into their lives.
Well, indeed. You see, manifesting is the realization of energy into something that is more tangible.
Mm,
Everything exists already in energetic form, but it is not going to be anywhere near you if it is not meant for you. And so, what we would say to you is that manifesting, first off, is to decide or to try to ascertain whether what you are wishing to manifest is actually for your greater good or for your soul's purpose, or is
mm,
it just something that you have this idea that you might like to have?
mm,
Because that will make a difference. You see, the more it is aligned with your life purpose in whatever way, not necessarily in a terribly grand way, it might be your life's purpose for the moment or that day, but
mm,
nevertheless, when it is aligned in that way, then there is far more energy behind it. So you already know if you are having a frivolous thought of manifesting a pile of gold,
mhm,
generally that will not happen. However, if you have this idea that you need to or wish to manifest something of a nutritional substance for yourself, whether it is physical food or whether it is some something that is beneficial in some other way, emotionally perhaps, then that is something that is likely to be more aligned with your purpose.
mm,
And then by focusing on it, not by begging for it or even praying for it, but more by simply allowing the universe to understand why this is something that is of a necessity
mm,
for you or something that will be useful. And generally, manifesting for others is going to be more beneficial than manifesting for yourself. You may
mm,
benefit from it as well. But by asking me, you are likely to limit it. But if you are saying, this is for us as a group, this is for
mm,
us to utilize and to grow with and to expand upon, then also that type of manifestation is easier. And then speaking of a
mm,
group, then if you are able to manifest as a group, so more than
mm,
one person focusing energy on a specific need or necessity, that
mm.
also will likely be far more beneficial.
Beautiful. So I'll come back to some of these more broad messages for the greater consciousness, but I would like to play in some curiosities around my timeline. And so you mentioned in that last answer about soul purpose, and I'm curious if you have any thoughts on how I, Will Fisher, am doing in finding my pathway along this aligned soul purpose.
Indeed, you already know the answer to that. You are doing quite well, Will Fisher, because you have, but if you look at your life, you see that is where, looking back, we generally do not advise spending too much time looking into the past, because
Mm,
that is serves only as a memory or serves as a, let us say, a rudder. So in
mm,
your past, in your earlier life, there were various currents that were taking you in the wrong directions. There were
mm,
various circumstances that were difficult in many ways or in several ways. And so in experiencing those, imagine that you were on a in a boat, or you were the boat on a river, and that river is your sole purpose. So you were banging into rocks, you were banging into the side, into the cliffs. And then generally you started to notice that it was easier to stay in the middle of the current, and it was easier to navigate, and everything became far more pleasant and
mm,
interesting. And so that is how you did. Much of finding one's soul purpose goes back to your question and our answer on creativity. When you
mm,
realize or align yourself to what feels the best, and you start to notice that things are getting easier, then in fact you are on the right path. You are following your soul purpose. Now, back
mm,
to you, what we would say, we do not generally prophesize, but what we would say to you is that you will start to see that you have some growth options in terms of your soul path, in terms of your creativity, in terms of
mm,
how you will continue to assist humanity, particularly your group of choice.
mm,
And here we certainly do not mean that your sexual orientation is a choice. We are saying that you have
mm,
chosen to work with LGBTQ plus people.
mhm,
So therefore, you will start to notice that there is a divergence of paths.
mm,
Either one, we tell you now, either one is perfect for you, because when you will finish one, you will loop back to the other one, perhaps in
mm,
some other form, but you will do exactly what it is that you are meant to do. Also, what we would say to you is that in your path, you also are opening yourself to other possibilities as well, so that you will start to expand more. You will start to simply become more aware of the different options. And they are all good, because for you, for a person who has got developed an awareness, then when you notice something that catches your interest, there is already a reason why it has caught your interest.
mm,
And then it is worth exploring. And there are many other situations, experiences that you encounter that are not of interest. And so you know that these are just simply, it is the scenery that you are passing as you are floating
mm.
along on your particular path of life.
Thank you. I love that metaphor for going down the river and finding the path that is with the most flow and ease and enjoyment. I think that's a really beautiful tip for all folks as they discover their soul purpose to seek that flowing path. So one more question that's related to me, and then I'll go back to the collective, which is around my health. So I had been speaking earlier about experimenting with a vegan diet, and a lot of this has come because of some concerns I was having around my liver health and the enzymes it was producing. And so just wondered if there's any information coming through about my liver, my diet, my health, anything that wants to be shared at this moment?
Yes, indeed. Your liver is simply sending you a message. Your liver, anyone's liver, a human's liver, is a detoxification organ. But in your case, it is the area of your body that decided to, we will say, act up a little bit to
Mm,
send the message that, all right, it is time for a change. It is time to adjust how you are eating and how you are living and all of that.
mm,
We will say that there is nothing particularly alarming about the condition of your liver, but what we would say to you is that we would also recommend, and this is also for all, but it is for you specifically, that there are certain herbs, there are certain cleansing herbs that are very beneficial for the liver to help it rebuild. We are not, if necessary, if it is possible, then we are not much, should we say, we prefer to advise you to take natural substances
mhm,
because you are a natural human being. You are not a machine that subsists on chemicals, and therefore the natural substances will help you. So, therefore, we would say do some cleansing of that nature with herbal formulas. And then also, what we would say to you is that the liver does carry some anger issues, your liver.
mm,
There are some anger issues that are unresolved that you have stored there. And
mm,
these are best to be worked out. And you are aware of them for the most part, if not all of them. And therefore, we will not go into that at the moment, but this is something also to consider, is just simply to find the time. You do not need to relive the experiences. It is best to forgive if you can, but it is also just simply file them away. So take them
mm,
out of your liver, out of
mm,
your body, out of your system, your energetic system,
mm,
and put them somewhere. If you do not wish to destroy them or get rid of them completely, then file them away in a little box somewhere and have a
mm,
lock it up. So if you need to retrieve it, if you wish to revisit it for whatever reason, then you can. But at the same time, remove those from your system, and that will also be of help to you.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. That's really helpful. Any going back to the collective, we are just over a week into the new year at the time of recording this, and I'm curious if there's any messages for the collective around this moment of time, this year 2024. Any words that might support people as they traverse this time on this planet?
Indeed, it is an interesting time for you, and interesting in ways that some will consider to be very scary. And we understand that. The energies swirling around your planet are intense. They are more intense than they have been in perhaps decades or even longer. And there is a reason for that, because it is almost like a sink or swim moment for humanity. So you can go in one direction and rather dismally fail, or you can start to really pull yourself up. And all indications are that humanity will make it. Humanity will actually decide that this is enough of this, and you wish to live in a better way, in a lighter way. And here we mean lighter, not only in terms of physical weight, but emotional weight, spiritual weight, mental weight. So start to discard. What we will tell
Mm,
you is that it seems likely that around the time of April and May, that will be a very, very intense period for
mm,
humanity. There may be some earth shifting type changes also. Best until then, in the few months that are between now and then, to really get yourself organized. So if you can lighten the load in whatever way, go ahead and do that. But more importantly, find what happens, what works for you, what is important for you. So the people that are you love, the people that are important to you in your life, in your relationships, make sure that you strengthen those, that you actually reach out and say, this is the time that we want to be together in whatever way.
mm,
The other thing that we would say prior to these intense months is just simply to try to find your life purpose, so that
mm,
if and when push comes to shove, you need to make some very big decisions, then you are not looking and wondering at that moment what it is that you should be doing or could be doing, so that you will have some preparation. And then if nothing happens, if April and May go by and everything is business as usual, well, then you will have prepared yourself in a very positive way for whatever is next. And then what we would say for the rest of the year is that it is going to resolve. It is going to play out. These circumstances of the intense months will continue to unravel, to unfold, to play out in whatever ways. And realize that it is a very large world. Your planet contains 9 billion people in very different circumstances. And so the circumstances that you and the channel and perhaps many of your listeners are in are quite different than the circumstances of the billion people who live in the country of India or who live in the country of China. And so understand also that this is for everyone. This is not just for one country or one continent.
Mm.
And so that is always important to remember, that you as humanity are very, very multifaceted. And so try to incorporate some understanding of what others are going to feel, what others are experiencing, because that will help you ultimately. That will help you as a human to grow in compassion and also in your own spiritual development.
Thank you so much, Joshua. I feel like I could keep asking you lots of questions, but in the spirit of time, perhaps we'll end there unless there's any final words you want to share as we come to a close.
No, indeed, but we will just simply finish by saying, similarly as we did
Mm,
when we started, is that we do admire and we do, on some level, almost envy the people who are listening, the LGBTQ crowd, because of your particular beauty. You
mm,
are amongst humans, you are almost the most interesting and the most special.
mm.
And remember that, tuck that in your heart when you are feeling somewhat down or in some other way that you are being hurt or whatever the case might be, saddened, then remember that you are special in your own way. Everyone is special. We understand that, but you have a particular place in the large family of humanity, and be proud of that.
Thank you. Beautiful.
Then we shall bid you good day.
Good day.
All
Beautiful.
right. I
Thank
have
you, Zintis.
returned.
Yeah, wonderful. Oh, great. Yeah, I'll just ask some final questions kind of on the other side of that wonderful experience. That was really incredible. And it is interesting. It's like it feels so different, me now back in the room with you than what I just was in moments ago.
Right.
Energetically and just the way that you look and how you sound, everything feels like a different person was here and now they're gone. It's very interesting. Hmm.
It is. And I will just comment that toward the end of my sessions with Pepper Lewis, when I was receiving them,
Hmm.
there were a few that I really didn't have any questions. I just wanted to be in that energy
Cool.
because it is so healing in so many ways and so
Hmm.
empowering, I think.
Hmm.
So, yes, absolutely. I can understand what you just said.
Wonderful. And I'm just curious, how is the experience for you? Is it tiring? You mentioned that you enjoy it. Is there any other ways that you describe how it is to be a channel in those moments?
Well, I have to say that I've channeled Joshua for so long and so frequently that that is very easy for me.
Hmm.
Um, I do channel other beings, other energies, other entities at times, and depending on who they are and what their energy is, it does tend to affect me more in terms of physical. Um,
Hmm.
one of the things that Joshua has always told me, and particularly in the beginning, was that Joshua and I are a team because energetically we are quite compatible. So for
Hmm.
me now, what just I don't much recall of anything that was said. If you were to ask me a specific question about something that was said, because it was so short time ago, such a short time ago, I might be able to recall it,
Hmm.
but it's going to fade away within an hour. I will have no
Wow.
idea of
Wow.
what happened. So it's almost like taking a little nap. I mean,
Wow.
like for my mind, what happens physically is that I do on some level tense up a little bit. um
Hmm.
So what I find, if I've done a very long session, like an hour and a half or even 2 hours,
Mm,
then it just takes a while to really kind of get control of my body back.
how fascinating. Yeah. Well, thank you again for allowing me to have that experience and to offer it to my listeners. That was really fascinating and very valuable. And so, as we wrap up, yeah, I am grateful, very grateful for that platform, Oracle, for reaching out and allowing us to have this experience. And is there anything you want to say about that platform or about any more about your work as we wrap things
Well,
up?
the platform is it's new. I mean that we've been as together as a group of channelers, and we're working on opening up more and more to more and more people. But the wonderful thing about it is that anyone who's interested in having a channeling experience, there are many, I don't, at this point, maybe 20 of us, I'm not sure exactly how many
Hmm.
are on the platform, that to choose from. And so there are men and women and of various ages, and also bringing through various different types of energies. So as a platform, it's really a wonderful way. And the owner, or I should say, the the person in charge, whose
Hmm.
idea all of this was. She's the instigator of Oracle. Her name's Huen Nu. She actually has personally vetted every channeler who's there.
Mm,
So it's not just, someone signed up without quite a bit of um well, vetting is the word.
yeah.
It is
Hmm.
she really she made sure that the person's energies and the channeled energies fit into the highest possible good. So
Mm,
it's a great place to visit and to sign up for a session if somebody's interested in that, or exploring channeling too. There's information about
mm,
channeling on the site, and each of us has a different story, and there are little
mm,
videos of us doing our work or talking, so
mm,
it's actually kind of a fun place to visit also. Yeah.
mm. Oh, cool. That's very cool. It's exciting to me that this type of work is coming so much more to the forefront of the mainstream. And so things like that a platform for channelers, is indicative of this new earth, that is moving more and more into an awakened consciousness.
Oh, I totally agree.
Mm. Amazing. Well, Zintis, it's been such a pleasure. I'm so glad that I've gotten to know you through this process. And is there any final piece that you'd like to share as we wrap up?
Well, no, I mean, I could talk to you like more and more about this and other things as well. But thanks for having me, Willie. I'm so glad that I will wrap it up by saying, I'm somewhat older, I think, than you are. And when I was young and living in New York City 30 plus years ago, spirituality and gayness didn't necessarily
Mm,
go hand in hand. I mean, the GLBT Center at or at that point it was the Gay and Lesbian Center, in the West Village. I mean, there were courses, there were different expressions of whatever, but very little of it had to do with spiritual opening or spiritual growth. and
mhm,
and I think that we've really crossed that bridge, and I think we understand how important we as a group are to humanity and
mhm,
our growth is collectively. So it's really a
mm,
great, what you're doing is just so
mm,
wonderful to facilitate spirituality and I would say opening. That's
mm,
the word I like to use. We are all opening into something better.
beautiful. Thank you so much. Yeah,
Well,
I'm
thank
pleased
you,
to do
Will.
it. Thank you. Many blessings, and much love.
You too. Thank you.